The massive doors of the council chamber slowly opened with a deep rumbling sound. Admiral Kyo Nam-jin walked through them with steady steps. His blue military uniform was clean and pressed, but small burn marks on his sleeves showed he had recently been in battle. Behind him, Captain Lee Bo-ra followed quietly. Her eyes moved across the enormous room, taking in everything she saw. The chamber was bigger than any building on Earth. The ceiling stretched so high that clouds actually formed near the top. Hundreds of different alien beings sat in floating chairs arranged in circles around the center floor. Some looked like giant insects with clicking sounds coming from their mouths. Others appeared to be made of living crystal that glowed with soft light. A few resembled enormous sea creatures floating in tanks of green liquid. Nam-jin had seen this place before, but it still amazed him. 3 years ago, humanity had made first contact with the Galactic Dominion Council. Back then, the humans thought they would be welcomed as new friends. They were wrong. High Arbiter Velthon rose from the center of the chamber. The being was 12 feet tall and made entirely of blue crystal. When it moved, musical sounds filled the air. Light pulsed through its body as it spoke. Species designation human, Velthon said in a voice that sounded like wind chimes. You stand before the council to answer for your crimes against galactic law. Nam-jin stood straight and did not move. He had prepared for this moment for months. Bo-ra watched from behind him, her hand resting on her sidearm. She knew it would be useless here, but it made her feel better. We are listening, Nam-jin said clearly. Veldashthon. S light grew brighter. Your kind has been watched since you achieved faster than light travel 2 standard cycles ago. Your expansion rate violates 17 council laws. Your military actions in the Kepler sector show clear aggression against peaceful operations. Nam-jin felt anger growing in his chest, but he kept his voice calm. Those were not peaceful operations. Your people were strip mining worlds with living creatures on them. Entire species were being wiped out. A wave of angry sounds filled the chamber. Clicking, growling, and electronic screeches came from hundreds of alien throats. One creature, that looked like a giant spider, spoke in a hissing voice. The primitive life forms had no space travel capability. They do not qualify for protection under council law. Nam-jin took a step forward. Just because they could not travel between stars does not mean they had no right to live. We humans protect those who cannot protect themselves. More angry sounds filled the air. Velthon raised one crystal arm and the chamber became quiet. Your species does not understand galactic civilization, the High Arbiter said. For 30,000 years, the Council has maintained peace through order. Resources must be gathered efficiently. Primitive species that cannot contribute to galactic society have no standing. Bo-ra watched Nam-jin's jaw tighten. She had been with him during the Kepler incident. They had arrived to find Dominion mining ships destroying forest full of intelligent creatures. The aliens looked like tall, thin people covered in golden fur. They had built cities in the trees and created beautiful art on cave walls. The mining ships were burning it all. Nam-jin had ordered the human fleet to stop the destruction. The battle lasted 3 hours. When it ended, 12 human ships were damaged, but the mining operation had been stopped. 50,000 golden-furred beings were still alive because humans had chosen to fight. We reject your definition of civilization, Nam-jin said firmly. Any society that destroys the weak to benefit the strong is not civilized at all. The chamber erupted in chaos. Aliens shouted in dozens of languages. Some creatures began glowing with anger. Others made threatening gestures with claws or tentacles. Velthon's crystal body flared with bright light. Silence, the High Arbiter commanded. The noise stopped immediately. Admiral Nam-jin, your words show exactly why humanity must be controlled. You are a young species with dangerous ideas. You do not respect the natural order of things. What natural order? Nam-jin asked. The order where the strong crush the weak, where might makes right. If that is your natural order, then humanity wants nothing to do with it. Bo-ra felt a chill run down her spine. She knew what was coming next. Veldashthon's voice became cold and final. The council has reached a unanimous decision. Humanity will be contained within 50 light-years of your origin system. Any human vessel found beyond these boundaries will be destroyed immediately without warning. You have 72 standard hours to comply with this order." Namjin stared at the crystal being for a long moment. In his mind, he thought about Earth. He pictured his wife and daughter in their small house by the ocean. He thought about the colonies, millions of humans living on distant worlds, building new lives among the stars. All of it would be trapped in a cage. "And if we refuse?" Namjin asked. "Then your species will be eliminated," Velthon replied simply. "The Dominion fleet consists of over 10,000 ships. Your entire military force numbers less than 800 vessels. The mathematics are clear." Bo-Ra stepped forward slightly. As Namjin's aide, she had access to classified information. She knew humanity had been working on new weapons in secret, but 10,000 ships against 800 still seemed impossible. Nam-Jin looked around the chamber at all the alien faces watching him. Some seemed pleased. Others appeared bored, as if this was just routine business. A few actually looked sad, as if they regretted what was happening. "High Arbiter Velthon," Namjin said clearly, "on behalf of all humanity, I reject your ultimatum. We will not be caged like animals. We will not abandon innocent beings to your mining ships. If you want to stop us, you will have to try." The chamber fell completely silent. In 30,000 years of galactic history, no species had ever directly defied a council judgment. The aliens stared at Namjin as if he had just declared war on physics itself. Vel-Thon, S crystal body pulsed with dangerous light. "Your defiance has been noted, Admiral Namjin. The Dominion fleet will begin enforcement operations immediately. I suggest you use your remaining time wisely, perhaps to evacuate your outer colonies before they are destroyed." Namjin turned to leave, Bo-Ra following close behind. As they walked toward the massive doors, she whispered urgently, "Sir, they really do have 10,000 ships. Our intelligence confirms it. How can we possibly fight that many?" Namjin kept walking, but Bo-Ra saw him smile slightly. "Captain, when humans are backed into a corner, we do not just fight harder, we fight smarter. The Council is about to learn that lesson the hard way." The doors closed behind them with a sound like thunder. Inside the chamber, High Arbiter Velthon turned to address the other council members. "Begin immediate mobilization of all Dominion fleets. This human problem must be solved quickly and decisively. No species can be allowed to challenge council authority." But deep in the crystal being's consciousness, a small worry began to grow. In all the galaxy's history, only one other species had ever shown such complete fearlessness in the face of overwhelming odds. That species had been wiped out 20,000 years ago, but not before they had nearly brought down the entire Dominion. As Namjin and Bo-Ra boarded their ship to return to Earth, neither of them knew that humanity's real test was just beginning. The next few days would determine whether the human race would survive as free beings or be destroyed completely. The galaxy was about to discover what happened when humans had nothing left to lose. The emergency meeting room deep beneath Geneva was filled with tension. President Park Miso sat at the head of the long table, her face showing the weight of impossible decisions. Around her, the most important people in human government waited for her words. Defense Minister Kim Tae-won stood beside a massive holographic display. The image showed space around Earth, with thousands of red dots moving toward human territory. Each dot represented an alien warship. "The Dominion fleet will reach our outer colonies in 6 days, Kim reported. "Our scouts confirm over 10,000 ships. They plan to attack Colony 7 first." President Park closed her eyes for a moment. Colony 7 had 20 million people living on it. Families with children. Scientists working to terraform the planet. Artists and teachers and farmers building a new world. "What are our options, Ok?" she asked. General Song Da-hai, the head of military strategy, spoke grimly. "With conventional weapons, we have no options. Their ships are bigger and stronger than ours. They have better shields and more powerful guns. In a straight fight, we lose." Dr. Choi Hyun-woo cleared his throat nervously. He was the head of the secret weapons program, and he had been hoping this day would never come. "Madam President, I need to tell you about Project Prometheus," he said quietly. The room became very still. Even the air recycling system seemed to grow quiet. Dr. Choi activated a new holographic display. This one showed technical drawings that hurt to look at, lines and equations that seemed to bend in impossible directions. "We call them quantum cascade torpedoes," Choi explained. "They do not just destroy matter, they unravel the basic structure of space and time itself. The effect spreads like fire until it burns itself out." General Song stared at the display with growing alarm. "Doctor, are you telling us you built weapons that can damage reality?" "Yes," Choi said simply. "One torpedo can destroy an entire fleet, but we only managed to build 12 of them, and we are not completely sure we can control what happens after we use them." President Park felt a cold weight settle in her stomach. "What do you mean by control?" "The cascade effect might not stop where we want it to," Choi admitted. "It could keep spreading. Theoretically, one torpedo could destroy a solar system if the conditions are right." The room fell silent again. Outside, life continued normally on Earth. People went to work and school. Children played in parks. None of them knew that their leaders were discussing weapons that could accidentally destroy everything they had ever known. "How many ships are in the first wave of their attack?" President Park asked. 3,000, Kim answered. Park looked around the table at her advisors. She saw fear in their eyes, but also determination. Humanity had always survived by making hard choices when necessary. "Then we use all 12 torpedoes if we have to," she decided. "Contact Admiral Nam Jin, tell him to fall back to the Seoul defense line and prepare for battle." Far away in space, Fleet Commander Zexhai studied reports about human military strength. The slug-like alien found the information amusing. Human ships were tiny compared to Dominion vessels. Their weapons were primitive. Their shields were barely worth mentioning. "This will be over quickly," Zexhai gurgled to his officers. "Maintain formation and advance at maximum speed. I want these humans to watch their doom approach slowly." The alien commander had no idea that he was about to face weapons that could tear holes in the universe itself. Back on Earth, Admiral Nam Jin received his new orders aboard the battleship Seoul. He stood on the bridge looking out at the stars, knowing that some of his crews would not survive the coming battle. Captain Lee Bo-ra approached him with a worried expression. "Sir, the Cascade torpedoes are untested in real combat. What if they work too well?" Nam Jin turned to face her. "Captain, what if they do not work well enough? Then Earth dies along with every other human world. We do what we must and hope for the best." In the weapons bay below, technicians made final preparations on the 12 torpedoes. Each weapon was the size of a small spacecraft, covered in strange symbols that seemed to shift when looked at directly. The quantum field generators hummed with barely contained power. Lieutenant Commander Yoon Sang-min checked the torpedo guidance systems one last time. His job was to make sure the weapons hit their targets precisely. A miss could mean the difference between victory and the accidental destruction of human space. "All systems ready," he reported to the bridge. "Torpedoes are loaded and armed." Namjin nodded grimly. "Signal all ships to take positions. When the aliens arrive, we give them one chance to retreat. If they refuse, we show them what humanity does when cornered." The next few hours passed slowly. Human crews checked their weapons and said quiet prayers. Some wrote letters to their families just in case. Others simply stared out at the stars, wondering if this would be the last time they saw them. When the Dominion fleet finally appeared on their sensors, it looked like a wall of metal and death moving toward Earth. 3,000 ships in perfect formation, confident in their overwhelming strength. But they had never faced humans before. And humans, when pushed to the edge, did not just fight back. They changed the rules of the game entirely. The battle that would reshape the galaxy was about to begin. The space around Ceres Station became a battlefield unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Admiral Nam Jin positioned his 800 ships in a defensive formation, knowing they faced impossible odds. But humans had faced impossible odds Before Captain Yoon Sang-min commanded the heavy cruiser Incheon from his position near the asteroid belt. His crew was nervous but ready. They had trained for this moment their entire careers. All ships, this is Admiral Nam Jin, the fleet commander's voice filled every human vessel. Today we fight not just for Earth, but for the right of every species to choose their own path. Make every shot count because the galaxy is watching. The Dominion fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel in a display of overwhelming power. 3,000 ships of different sizes and shapes, all bristling with weapons designed to destroy worlds. At their head, Fleet Commander HFY's flagship led the advance like a metal mountain moving through space. Commander Ryuji Hee led a squadron of destroyers positioned behind a large asteroid. Her ships were tiny compared to the alien vessels, but they were fast and their crews were determined. "First torpedo ready for launch," reported Commander Lee Jae-sung from the Weapon Control Center of the battleship Seoul. His hands shook slightly as he prepared to fire a weapon that could tear reality apart. "Launch," ordered Nam Jin. The Quantum. Cascade torpedoes streaked across space toward the center of the enemy formation. To the aliens, it looked like just another missile. They prepared to shoot it down with their defensive systems. They were too late. The explosion began as a point of brilliant light brighter than a star. Then space itself began to come apart. Reality tore open like paper, creating a wound in the universe that devoured everything it touched. 17 Dominion ships simply stopped existing, leaving behind only twisted fragments of broken space-time. Fleet. Commander HFY stared at his displays in horror. What weapon was that? How is such destruction possible? "Unknown, Commander." His tactical officer replied with fear in his voice. "We are detecting quantum anomalies across 50 kilometers. The damage is still spreading." The remaining Dominion ships scattered in panic, but the humans pressed their advantage. Captain Park Sejong launched the second torpedo from the cruiser Busan, targeting a cluster of enemy command ships. Another reality-tearing explosion removed 100 more alien vessels from existence. Space around the battle zone became scarred, with permanent wounds that bent light and twisted gravity. But the Dominion fleet was learning quickly. Their remaining ships spread out and began systematically destroying human vessels with concentrated firepower. The destroyer Daegu, commanded by Lieutenant Han Solby, took multiple direct hits and broke apart in a cascade of fire and escaping atmosphere. "We are losing ships too fast," Captain Bora reported from the bridge of the battleship Sejong. "At this rate, we will not have a fleet left to defend Earth." Nam Jin watched grimly as another human ship died in fire. Each explosion meant hundreds of his people were gone forever, but he could not hesitate now. "Fire all remaining torpedoes simultaneously," he ordered. "Target their flagship formations." 10 quantum cascade warheads launched at once, streaking across the battlefield like arrows of destruction. Each one tore a new hole in reality, creating wounds in space that would never heal. The Dominion fleet, once numbering 3,000 strong, was reduced to fewer than 800 ships in minutes. But the cost was terrible. Dr. Lim In-soo, monitoring the battle from the science vessel Daejeon, reported with growing panic. "Admiral, the quantum fabric is becoming unstable across the entire battle zone. Multiple cascade reactions are starting to merge. We need to evacuate immediately, or risk being pulled into whatever we have created." Both fleets began retreating from the expanding anomaly. Where the battle had raged, space itself was now permanently damaged. Gravity flowed in strange directions. Light bent around invisible wounds. Time moved at different speeds in different places. Fleet Commander HFY transmitted an emergency message to the Council as his surviving ships limped away from the destruction. "The humans have weapons that can destroy space itself," he reported. "They have torn permanent holes in reality. Request immediate reinforcement of all remaining fleets. This threat must be eliminated before they can use such weapons again." The human side, Admiral Nam Jin gathered his surviving ships for the journey back to Earth. They had won the battle, but at a cost that terrified everyone who witnessed it. "Sir," Captain Bora said quietly, "what have we done? Those holes in space, they are not closing." Nam Jin stared at the ruined battlefield through the main view screen. "We have bought Earth time, Captain. Whether we have saved humanity or doomed the universe remains to be seen. Dr. Choi Hyun-woo, monitoring the battle from Earth, was already working on calculations. The quantum cascade effect was more powerful than they had predicted. If they used such weapons again, they might accidentally destroy everything they were trying to protect. But the Dominion Council would not give up. They would return with even more ships, and humanity would have to find another way to defend itself. The next battle would determine whether humans survived as a free species or whether their defiance would lead to total extinction. The holes in space continued to grow slowly, a reminder that some weapons were too dangerous to use, even in the face of annihilation. The emergency session of the Galactic Dominion Council convened in crisis mode. The Great Chamber filled with angry voices as hundreds of alien species demanded answers. High Arbiter Velthon's crystal form pulsed with dangerous energy as holographic images of the battle played repeatedly above the assembly. In 30,000 years of galactic civilization, no species has ever wielded weapons capable of damaging the fundamental structure of reality, Velthon declared. The crystal being's voice carried undertones of fear that had never been heard before. Humanity has crossed a line that threatens the stability of the universe itself. Counselor Thysera of the Ethereal Collective projected waves of concern through the chamber. Her energy-based form flickered with distress. The quantum distortions are spreading beyond the battle zone. Our scientists estimate that continued use of such weapons could create cascade failures affecting multiple star systems. In the military section of the chamber, Fleet Admiral Kex Thule rose to speak. The massive insectoid warrior stood 12 feet tall, his forearms ending in razor-sharp claws. His mandibles clicked ominously as he addressed the assembly. "I have reviewed the battle records," Kexthul said in a voice like grinding stone. "These humans destroyed 3/4 of our attack fleet using only 12 weapons. If they possess more such devices, they could threaten the entire Dominion." Murmurs of fear and anger rippled through the chamber. Some species called for immediate surrender. Others demanded the complete extermination of humanity before their reality-warping weapons could be used again. High Arbiter Velthon raised one crystal arm for silence. "Fleet Admiral Kexthul, you are authorized to deploy the sector fleet. All 15,000 ships under your command are to move against Earth immediately. Use any means necessary to eliminate this threat." Kexthul's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. "What of capturing their technology, High Arbiter?" "If possible, yes. But priority must be given to ensuring these weapons are never used again. Better to destroy the technology than risk universal catastrophe." Meanwhile, on Earth, the aftermath of the battle had left humanity both victorious and terrified. In the deep bunkers beneath the Geneva complex, President Park Miso met with her war council to assess their desperate situation. Dr. Choi Hyun-woo delivered his report with obvious distress. "Madam President, our torpedo salvo has created spatial anomalies that continue to expand. Our computer models suggest the damage could destabilize the entire Sol system within 6 months if left unchecked." Defense Minister Kim Tae-won added grimly, "We have also detected massive fleet movements throughout Dominion space. Intelligence estimates they are mobilizing their entire military against us. Over 15,000 ships." Colonel An Yu-jin of Special Operations studied the strategic displays with a tactical eye. The career soldier had spent 20 years planning for impossible battles, but this situation was beyond anything she had imagined. "Ma'am, we have one advantage they do not know about," she said. "Our deep space reconnaissance has located their primary shipyard facilities in the Nexus sector. If we could strike there before their main fleet arrives—" "With what?" General Song Dahai interrupted. "We used all our Cascade torpedoes, and conventional weapons will not penetrate their heavy defenses." Dr. Choi hesitated before speaking. The weapon he was about to describe terrified even him. "There is one possibility. Project Odin. We have been developing a single massive cascade weapon designed to create a controlled quantum collapse. We could theoretically eliminate an entire star system, but the risk of uncontrolled expansion would be enormous." President Park stared at the holographic display showing the approaching Dominion forces. 15,000 ships against humanity's remaining 400. Even their reality-warping weapons might not be enough this time. Doctor, how long would you need to complete Project Odin? 2 weeks, assuming we can maintain control of our industrial facilities and the quantum instabilities do not worsen. You have 1 week, Park decided. General Song, prepare our remaining forces for a fighting retreat to the Sol defense grid. We will make them pay for every kilometer they advance. Captain Won Dong-hyuk received his new orders aboard the heavy cruiser Gwangju. The young officer had been promoted after his heroic defense of Colony 7, where he had saved 2 million civilians from Dominion raiders. All ship commanders listen carefully, Won broadcast to the assembled fleet. Our job is not to win this battle. Our job is to buy time for Project Odin. Every minute we hold them back is another minute for Earth to prepare humanity's last weapon. The human fleet began moving toward the outer system, where they would make their desperate stand. Behind them, on Earth and the remaining colonies, families said goodbye to their loved ones. Everyone understood that this might be humanity's final battle. In the secret laboratories beneath Mount Fuji, Dr. Choi and his team worked frantically to complete their doomsday weapon. Project Odin was designed to create a controlled collapse of space-time that could eliminate entire fleets without the random spreading of the Cascade torpedoes. The quantum containment field is unstable, reported Dr. Bae Sujin, Choi's chief assistant. If we lose containment during assembly, then Earth dies along with everything else in a 50-light-year radius, Choi finished. But if we do not complete this weapon, humanity dies anyway. Keep working. The fate of the human species now rested on a device that could accidentally destroy half the galaxy. As the Dominion's largest fleet in history approached Earth, scientists worked desperately to harness forces that mortals were never meant to control. The final battle for humanity's survival was about to begin. The second battle began at the edge of human space, where Captain Won Dong-hyuk had positioned the remnants of the Terran fleet around strategic asteroid fields and abandoned mining stations. The Dominion's massive armada approached like a tide of metal death, 15,000 ships led by Fleet Admiral Kexthul's flagship Infinite Conquest. All ships, this is Captain Won, the young commander broadcast to his outnumbered forces. Our mission is simple. Every minute we delay them gives Earth another minute to complete Project Odin. We are not expected to win. We are expected to buy time with our lives. Commander Park Ji-won, captain of the destroyer Mokpo, checked her weapons one final time. Her ship carried conventional fusion torpedoes and particle beam weapons that would barely scratch the paint on a Dominion dreadnought. Understood, Captain Won, she replied. My crew is ready. We will make the aliens remember this day. The battle unfolded as a series of desperate hit-and-run attacks. Human ships darted between asteroids and debris clouds, using their superior speed and maneuverability to avoid the overwhelming alien firepower. They could not win, but they could make the Dominion pay dearly for every kilometer of advance. Lieutenant Kim Soo-jin led a squadron of fighters launched from the carrier Jeju. Her small craft performed impossible maneuvers, weaving between capital ship formations to strike at sensor arrays and weapon mounts. The damage they inflicted was minor, but every disabled gun was one less threat to the larger human vessels. Fox Squadron, this is Fox Leader, Kim called to her pilots. Target their communication arrays. If we can disrupt their coordination, we might slow them down. The human fighters danced through space like deadly butterflies, too small and fast for the alien ships to target effectively. But gradually, inevitably, they began to fall. Kim watched in horror as Fox 3 took a direct hit from a plasma cannon and simply vaporized on the surface. The human fleet was being systematically destroyed. Captain Yang Min-ho's destroyer Ulsan made a heroic suicide run against a Dominion battlecruiser, both ships disappearing in a massive nuclear explosion. The sacrifice took out one enemy vessel, but cost the lives of 300 brave humans. We cannot hold them much longer, Commander Park reported as her ship took heavy damage. Hull breaches on decks 4 through 7. Main engines at 60%. Captain Won watched the tactical display with grim determination. His fleet had been reduced from 400 ships to less than 50 in just 3 hours of fighting. But those 3 hours had given Dr. Choi precious time to work on Project Odin. Deep, beneath Mount Fuji, the scientists labored frantically to complete humanity's last hope. The weapon was unlike anything ever built, a device designed to create a controlled collapse of quantum reality that could eliminate an entire fleet without the unpredictable spreading effects of the Cascade torpedoes. Quantum field generators are at 90%, Dr. B.A. Sujin reported. But the containment matrix is still unstable. If we lose control during activation, then we destroy everything within 50 light years, Dr. Choi finished. I am aware of the risks, Doctor. Continue the assembly. Above them, the strategic situation continued to deteriorate. The Dominion fleet had pushed through the outer defenses and was now advancing on the inner Sol system. General Kang Ho-seok made a final desperate stand at Titan Base, the heavily fortified space station orbiting Saturn. This is Titan Base to all surviving ships, General Kang broadcast as enemy fire overwhelmed his shields. We are going critical. Reactor overload in 30 seconds. All power to main weapons. If we are going down, we take as many with us as possible. The base's fusion reactor detonated in a spectacular explosion that vaporized dozens of enemy ships, but thousands more continued their relentless advance toward Earth. The blue and green world that had given birth to humanity was now only hours away from orbital bombardment. Fleet Admiral Kex Thule watched the human resistance crumble with professional satisfaction. These creatures fought well for primitives, but courage could not overcome such overwhelming odds. Human Admiral Nam Jin, Kex Thule transmitted on all frequencies. Your species has fought with honor, but your defeat is inevitable. Surrender, now, and we will grant mercy to your civilian populations. Nam Jin's response crackled across space from his battered flagship Sol. Admiral Kex Thule, humanity does not surrender. We adapt, we overcome, or we die trying. You want our world? Come and take it. As the alien fleet entered Earth's orbital space, proximity alarms sounded throughout the solar system. On Mars, Governor Lee Kyung-min began emergency evacuation, procedures for the colony's 3 million inhabitants. On Luna Base, Commander Youngda Som prepared the moon's ancient defense batteries for a final hopeless stand. But in the depths of Mount Fuji, Dr. Choi made a discovery that changed everything. The quantum cascade effects from the previous battle had left permanent weaknesses in local space-time. Weaknesses that Project Odin could exploit in ways they had never imagined. President Park, he reported urgently over the emergency communication system. I believe we can modify the weapon's effect. Instead of destroying the enemy fleet, we might be able to create a controlled dimensional displacement. We could transport their entire armada to an uninhabited region of space without harming them. The gamble was enormous. Success could save humanity without committing genocide. Failure could tear apart the fabric of reality and destroy the entire solar system. With the Dominion fleet only hours away from Earth, President Park made the most important decision in human history. Do it, Doctor. Whatever the cost, we cannot become monsters to defeat monsters. The final phase of the battle was about to begin, and the fate of both species now rested on an untested weapon that could either save them all or destroy everything they had ever known. The final battle erupted in Earth's orbital space as Admiral Nam Jin gathered humanity's last defenders. 200 surviving ships formed a desperate screen around the blue world, while 15,000 alien vessels closed in for the kill. The mathematics were simple and terrifying. Humanity faced extinction in the next few hours. Fleet Admiral Kex Thule's flagship Infinite Conquest led the assault, its massive plasma batteries reducing human ships to glowing debris. The cruiser Pohang, commanded by Captain Shin Yun-jung, exploded in a brilliant fireball after ramming a Dominion destroyer in a final act of defiance. Earth Defense Command, this is Admiral Nam Jin, the fleet commander broadcast from his damaged bridge. We have lost orbital superiority, beginning atmospheric entry to continue the fight on the surface. But President Park Miso had other plans. From the command bunker beneath Geneva, she opened a channel to all human forces. Admiral, all ships pull back to minimum safe distance immediately. We are activating Project Odin in 60 seconds. Deep beneath Mount Fuji, Dr. Choi Hyun-woo stood before humanity's most dangerous creation. Project Odin filled an entire underground chamber, a massive device covered in quantum field generators and reality manipulation matrices. But instead of the destructive weapon they had originally planned, Choi had modified it into something unprecedented. All systems ready, Dr. Bae Soo-jin reported from the control station. Quantum displacement field generators at maximum output, targeting the entire enemy fleet. Dr. Choi placed his hand on the activation control. If his calculations were wrong, this device would create a black hole that would consume the Earth. If he was right, it would accomplish something that had never been done before in galactic history. Initiate Project Odin, he commanded. The effect began as a gentle pulse of energy that spread outward from Earth at the speed of light. Unlike the violent tears in reality created by the Cascade torpedoes, this was something elegant and precise. A pearl-like bubble of altered space-time expanded from the planet's surface, encompassing everything in its path. Fleet Admiral Kex Thule watched in confusion as the strange energy field approached his flagship. What are they doing? All weapons. Fire on that planet immediately. But before the Dominion fleet could launch their attack, the displacement field reached them. Ships did not explode or disintegrate. Instead, something impossible happened. One by one, the alien vessels simply faded from normal space and reappeared thousands of light years away in an empty region of the galaxy. Kex Thule found himself staring at unfamiliar stars, his massive fleet completely intact but utterly displaced from the battle. His tactical displays showed their new position, the galactic rim, weeks of travel from the nearest inhabited system. Impossible, he whispered, studying the readings. They transported our entire fleet without destroying a single ship. How did they achieve such precise dimensional manipulation? The answer came in a transmission from Earth, broadcast across space on all frequencies. Dr. Choi's voice carried a mixture of exhaustion and quiet pride. Fleet Admiral Kex Thule, this is Dr. Choi Hyun-woo of the Terran Research Division. What you have experienced is controlled quantum displacement, our alternative to the destructive weapons we used before. The transmission continued as the alien commander listened in stunned silence. We could have destroyed your fleet, your worlds, perhaps your entire sector of space. Instead, we chose to demonstrate that humanity's strength lies not in our capacity for destruction, but in our ability to find solutions that preserve life. Your ships and crews are unharmed. You have sufficient supplies to return to Dominion, space. The choice of what happens next belongs to you and your council. Back on Nexus Prime, the Galactic Dominion Council received reports of the fleet's displacement with stunned disbelief. High Arbiter Velthon's crystalline form flickered, with confusion and something that might have been respect. They possess the power to annihilate our entire military force, Counselor Thaisara observed. Yet they chose mercy over vengeance. In 30,000 years of galactic civilization, we have never encountered such restraint from a species. Under existential threat. Fleet Admiral Kex Thule's response surprised everyone in both governments. After days of consideration, he transmitted a message to Earth that would change galactic history. Dr. Choi, this is Fleet Admiral Kex Thule. In 400 years of military service, I have never encountered an enemy who could defeat me without bloodshed. Your species has demonstrated wisdom that transcends mere technological superiority. The aftermath of the displacement reshaped galactic politics completely. The Dominion Council, faced with humanity's demonstration of both overwhelming capability and moral restraint, voted to rescind the containment order. More importantly, they invited humanity to join the Council as equal partners rather than conquered subjects. President Park's address to the joint session 6 months later marked a turning point in interstellar relations. Standing before the same chamber where Admiral Nam Jin had been threatened with extinction, she spoke words that would be remembered for millennia. The Endgame mistake was not humanity's defiance of your ultimatum, Park declared to the assembled aliens. It was the assumption that strength must be demonstrated through domination rather than protection, through conquest rather than cooperation. Admiral Nam Jin, Now serving as Earth's first galactic ambassador, stood beside former enemies who had become cautious allies. Captain Lee Bora, promoted to admiral and commander of the new Terran diplomatic fleet, represented humanity's commitment to peaceful exploration among the stars. Dr. Choi's quantum displacement technology became the foundation for a new era of galactic civilization. Conflicts could now be resolved without destroying entire worlds. The permanent scars in space-time left by the Cascade weapons served as reminders of the path not taken. But perhaps most importantly, humanity's choice to spare their enemies when they possessed the power to destroy them established a new standard for galactic civilization. The species that had defied the Dominion Council through strength ultimately transformed it through mercy. The title, Defying Humanity, took on new meaning, not as humanity defying others, but as the galaxy learning to defy its own limitations through humanity's example. Years later, when young beings of dozens of species learned galactic history, they would study the moment when humanity faced extinction and chose compassion over vengeance. It became known as the day the universe learned that true strength lay, not in the power to destroy, but in the wisdom to choose a better path. The galaxy would never be the same. And that was exactly as humanity intended.